Hello, and welcome to Go Red Talks, a production of the American Heart Association and Triangle Go Red for Women. Go Red for Women, the American Heart Association's signature women's initiative, is a comprehensive platform that works to raise awareness that heart disease is a woman's greatest health threat and to empower women to take action to lower their risk. Go Red Talks are a series of conversations on a variety of topics pertaining to women's heart health. They are aimed to educate, entertain, and inspire you to take action and prioritize your own health. Thank you to our Triangle Cities Go Red sponsors, Allscripts and Broad Step Behavioral Health. The 2022 Go Red Talk series is presented by Broad Step Behavioral Health. This Go Red Talk on health equity is sponsored by RTI Health Advance. We hope you enjoy this Go Red Talk.
Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Amy Helwig, the Executive Vice President of RTI's Health Advance. Our organization is a proud sponsor of this Go Red Talk as part of the American Heart Association's Go Red for Women campaign. 6 facts about women. Women hold 50% of all jobs in the United States. 49% of working women are their family's primary breadwinner, 42% of whom are working mothers. Women with children who are married or in relationships disproportionately handle key domestic chores even as they work full-time. Women bear the greater burden of managing work and family responsibilities compared to their male counterparts. Women earn 93 cents for every dollar a man earns. And women make up 66% of caregivers tending to elderly relatives. Well, these facts tell us that we are as career-oriented as men, is financially obligated to dependents, expected to simultaneously handle more at home while being paid less, and are expected to provide for the unique needs of the elderly. Alone, any one of these facts is startling, but compounded, these facts start to form the chapters of a bigger story. The theme of our story, the story of women, is responsibility. We're central characters in this epic tale of life. We're headliners, much rests on our shoulders. We're the glue that holds so many things together. We take care of people and problems and tasks because we must. We're essential and necessary. And woven in this action-packed, tension-filled books are the briefest scenes where we may steal a moment to feel, to think, and to dream. I'm no different than everyone else in your life in that today I'm going to ask for something of you too. I ask you to add a new chapter to your grand story. I want you to craft a section that focuses on the responsibility you have to yourself as a living, feeling, creative, powerful, strong being. Not on the responsibility asked of you by yet one more committee or one more class or event. Those chapters are already written. We need more people, more women to be fully present in our own stories, to think about our individual purpose and the dynamic role that we play in families and communities, and the people that we influence daily. To be present, to be the central headlining character of your story, you must prioritize yourself, your health, your well-being, your comfort, your needs, and your happiness. You must listen to your character instead of leaving her out of those important scenes of life. Does that sound impossible? No, it actually isn't impossible because the data shows that you're already doing this and you're crushing it every single day. So start writing your chapter now. You're entirely capable and your track record proves it. On behalf of RTI Health Advance, I hope you enjoy this Go Red Talk and the presentations that my colleagues will share with you now.
This story begins with a little girl with a big imagination and big dreams, growing up in a very small town. So I was raised on a farm in a very small town in eastern North Carolina. My dad was a long-distance truck driver, so he drove across country. He was gone mostly during the week, but home on the weekends. My mom was a local educator, so she taught at the local Head Start in our town. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings, I've got 2 sisters and 1 brother. I'm going to tell you something about myself that you may find hard to believe, but trust me when I tell you this. I'm not a farm girl, okay? I cared less about growing up on a farm. I had big dreams. There were so many things that I wanted to do. So it was quite interesting growing up on a farm. Pretty repetitive. So there's waking up in the morning. There's doing your household chores, doing the outdoors chores, feeding the animals, going to school, coming home, doing homework, doing more chores, eat, sleep, repeat. Pretty standard stuff. My comfort area and where I find the most joy was being inside, curled up, reading a good book. I'm a nerd. I always have been. Education was my escape. And there was nothing like me just sitting down and getting lost in a good story. Now, one of my favorite fictional characters was a little girl by the name of Ramona Quimby. Ramona was mischievous, always getting into something, opinionated, and she was brave. Ramona was my hero. Now, on the few occasions that my mom did strong-arm me to get outside, I went outside and I played with my siblings. So as a kid, I was very skinny, long legs. I take the build of my dad, but I was fast, okay? I was pretty hard to catch. And I loved playing a game of tag with my siblings. But the game never lasted for too long. I always found that I got very, very winded, very tired. Lots of fatigue when I was a kid. My mom didn't understand what was causing it, so eventually she decided to take me to the doctor. And after getting a physical and getting a checkup, we learned a couple of things during that visit. We learned that I had a very slow resting heart rate, very different from the average 19-year-old resting heart rate. My heart rate was in the low 30s. That wasn't a good sign. Now, what we learned from the physician, it was I had a heart murmur. But he told us it was harmless. I wouldn't need to take medication. It would be something that I would eventually grow out of. So in my mind, everything was going to be okay. And everything was okay for several years after. You know, I'd still tired very easily. There was still the shortness of breath. But I coped. I learned how to pace myself. So if I was outdoor playing with my siblings and I got too tired, I slowed down. I'd take a breath. I learned how to live with it. But things took a turn for the worse for me around my senior year of high school. So my condition got so bad that I had to be admitted to the hospital. And I'll never forget the day they had taken tests. I was sitting in the hospital bed, and I see the cardiologist walk through the door. And in my mind, I always equate it to seeing the storm clouds. You see, I'm from the country, so I used to stay with my grandma during the summers. And I remember sitting out on her porch, and I would look out over the fields, and it was nothing like seeing the storm clouds coming across the field and the sky, and knowing that it was going to be a nice summer storm that was coming. It always amazed me. So seeing that physician, that cardiologist walk into the room, I saw the storm clouds. I knew it wasn't good news. We learned 2 things that day. We learned that I actually did not have a heart murmur. I call it my true diagnosis. My true diagnosis was that I had heart failure. I had right-sided heart failure, to be exact. That meant the right side of my heart wasn't pumping enough blood to my lungs. Hence the fatigue, the shortness of breath, the sometimes dizzy spells I had experienced since I was a child. The second thing we learned was this condition would not get better. It would actually deteriorate. It would get worse. And so I was going to need surgery. I was going to need to have a pacemaker implant. The storm had arrived. Now, I'm a pretty decisive person. I have always been decisive since I was a kid. And you give me the information, I think that through, and I make a decision. So after hearing my true diagnosis and hearing about the treatment, I decided that I would not have the surgery. I said I'd wait. I wait because I was a senior in high school. I was too young to have a pacemaker. Pacemakers for older people, right? I was too young. I'd wait because I was going to college. I was escaping that farm life. There was no way I was going to have surgery before I went to school. And I'd wait because unknown to anyone else outside of my household, I knew that I didn't have health insurance. My family didn't go to the doctor for annual physicals and checkups. We saw the doctor when things got bad. We saw the doctor when we needed to see the doctor. And so I understood, as the oldest of 4 siblings, I understood as the daughter of a truck driver that there was no way I was going to place this financial burden on my family. So I decided I'd wait. And life went on. I graduated from high school with my other classmates, gave a good hug to the family, and said so long to the farm life. I relocated to the big city of Raleigh, where I attended North Carolina State University. Go Pack! I graduated from college, and I started my career. I got a really good job, which had really good benefits, health insurance to be exact. Now, the thing about good health insurance was I had the opportunity for the first time in my life to have annual physicals, annual checkups. I saw the doctor on a regular basis. And it was during one of those checkups that she referred me to see a cardiologist. Guess what? The situation was not getting better. So I went to see the cardiologist, and he gave me the same spiel I'd heard a couple of times before. You've got heart failure. It's not going to get better. You've got to have a pacemaker. Now, I'm a pretty analytical person. My motto is show me the data, okay? Show me the facts. And he showed me the facts. The situation would get worse if I did not have the surgery. My condition would continue to deteriorate. My heart rate would continue to get lower. And so I decided to have the surgery. I decided to have that surgery because I had a long life to live. Because I had to be here for my family. Because I no longer had that burden of worrying about sending my family into bankruptcy if I got a surgery. And so I made the decision. I always alluded to it being the choice. I made the choice. Within months, I had the surgery. You know, when I look back at my life and I think about that day and I think about making that choice, there are 3 words that come to my mind. Life is good. Life is good. It's been close to 20 years since I had the first surgery. There will be several surgeries to come. But 20 years since I had that first. Since that time, I've become a wife. I've become a mom. I had a healthy, mischievous little boy who turns 9 later this year. I'm blessed to still have my parents here with me, still living on the farm. Although we no longer play a game of tag, my siblings are still around. We're still close. I've had a great career where I've worked with some really great companies, really great people. I have my own business now where I'm able to work with leaders and help them to transform their organizations, transform their culture. Life is good. But this isn't how the story ends. The story is so much bigger than myself. I started working with the American Heart Association around the 2015-2016 timeframe. It was something about learning about their mission and their focus around heart health and education and prevention, doing what you can to prevent heart disease and stroke. I was sold. Since that time, I've had the opportunity to share my story with as many people as I can to advocate on prevention and heart health. Today, I serve on the board with the Triangle American Heart Association with some heart warriors, where we're working to do great work in the Triangle region. One initiative that really stands close to home for me is our focus on health equity. We founded the task force around health equity to get out into the communities and to partner with women of color in the communities where they are actually doing the work, to help them and provide them with the tools and the resources that they need to help their communities around heart health education and placing a greater spotlight on health equity. I know far too well the importance and the impact of getting the wrong diagnosis. I also know the importance of being able to get the treatment sooner rather than later. No, this story does not end with me. There's so much more work that has to be done. So regardless if you're a child on the West Coast, or you're growing up in the Midwest, or if you're up north, big city, or if you're a little girl living in a small rural town with big dreams, everyone deserves the opportunity to live a healthier and a longer life, free of stroke and heart disease. There's more work to be done. So we're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to push on health equity to make sure, again, that people have the opportunity to live those longer lives. Thank you.
Well, greetings, everyone. Greetings. I am delighted to be with you today. I'm Stephanie Hawkins, and I am the founding director of RTI's Transformative Research Unit for Equity. For those who may be listening to our Go Red talk on audio only, I'd love to paint a picture for you. I'm a Black woman. I'm about 5'4", have chocolate brown skin, and I'm wearing black cat-eyed glasses. And I am so delighted that I'm wearing a red and white dress just for you today. But I also want you to know that I'm wearing heels, which I have not done in 2 years, because this is my first public gathering, but it is well worth wearing heels for the opportunity to amplify heart health, especially for Black women. So Black women are about twice as likely as our white counterparts to die from high blood pressure related illnesses. We're also about twice as likely than our Hispanic counterparts. So for me, talking about heart health is personal. But I'm here to talk about my role as a researcher and how I center equity in my work. So I'd love to take you on that journey. So let's first set the table and talk about what is health equity. Health equity is when the intersection of all your social identities intersect, when you're residents in a marginalized community, when your experiences with structural racism or other forms of oppression do not impact your health outcomes. So those who don't have access to health resources, we have to be intentional and persistent in removing obstacles in order to achieve health equity. We also have to support culturally responsive and bias-free healthcare. So let's talk about where my journey started. If you haven't realized, I'm a New Yorker, I'm from Queens. And I grew up in a legally, racially segregated community. So what do I mean by that? It was an all Black community. And so I am really clear that the impact of structural racism does play out in many sectors of our lives. But let me also just be clear what structural racism is. So let me explain what I mean by that. So structural racism is the totality of experiences that maintain racial discrimination. It is also the ways in which our systems are mutually reinforcing to maintain inequities. And they all work to privilege white people. So that's what structural racism is. But when I think about my role as a kid having fun in New York, that was never something I thought about. But as I grew older, and definitely more recently, there's a lot of conversation about redlining. So I asked my dad, has this been an experience of yours when you got our house? And so he tells me a story about he and my mother, after they got married, wanting to purchase a home. And the realtor is taking them around, and they spot a home in a community that my mother loved. But the realtor made up lots of reasons why they weren't able to put an offer in on a house there. So as we continue, my mother is very persistent, or as some think, stubborn, but she decided we're just gonna wait. So as time has gone on, there's new construction, and there's an opportunity for a Black family to buy a house. Well, that opened up opportunities for other families because white residents began to leave and move into other communities. So commonly known as white flight. So my parents buy a house, and that is ultimately where I grew up. And it was excellent. I had a wonderful childhood. But as I reflect back now, I think about the grocery store that was in my neighborhood. I am pretty sure that if I think about how health inspections work, that grocery store would not have passed. But as my family, we had a little bit of privilege. We had a car, and many families in New York don't. So each week we would drive out to Long Island for our grocery shopping. So we were able to get some of the benefit that communities with more resources are able to enjoy, and that's fresh produce, lots of choices for food. But when I think about that grocery store in my neighborhood, and I think about the fact that there are people who had to go to that grocery store because they didn't have any options, it made me realize that where you live impacts your health outcomes. So let's talk about, as I think about my neighborhood, I also realized, RTI has a lot of resources. And so we've created a tool called the RTI Rarity Tool. And I asked my colleagues, are you able to map my neighborhood in Queens so that I can see sort of what this tool can do? So this tool is powered by artificial intelligence, and it helps to explain how health outcome inequities exist. They fuel it with lots of data on social determinants of health, and it's spectacular. So they created a tool, and you'll see on this map that the darker the color, the less social inequities exist. So that's a good thing. The lighter the color, the more social inequities exist. So my neighborhood in Queens is mapped in yellow, and it's purple. So that's not too bad. It's not black, but it's definitely not super light. So I was feeling pretty good about it. So when I look at the data associated with my neighborhood, I realize 79 years is the average life expectancy. But then I look at the historical redlining, and we get a D. Well, a D indicates hazardous, and I realized that that was a signal to the mortgage industry that if you want a risky bet, this is a risky bet. The people in this community are what we deem as undesirable, not a good bet for a mortgage company. So the colleagues at RTI also said, well, let's explore a neighborhood that's all Black from the social inequities index. Remember, all Black is a good thing. We look, and we just travel 3.5 miles, and we are in a community in Queens that on the social inequities index is all Black. And I look and realize their racial redlining grade is a B. And that signaled to mortgage industry that this is a safe bet. This community is probably nearly, if not all white, so you should go ahead and offer those mortgages there. The most fascinating thing, though, that blew my mind about this rarity tool is by moving 3.5 miles, I gained 4 years to my life expectancy. So it went from 79 and then added 4 more years to my life just by moving 3.5 miles. So that was fascinating to me. But I'll take you back on my journey. As I leave New York, I head to Atlanta, Georgia. I go to Spelman College, I get a bachelor's degree, I leave there, I go to DC, I get a master's and a PhD in clinical psychology from Howard, and I then ultimately moved to Durham. So I take a job at this place called RTI International. And I said, well, if where you live impacts your health, what decision did I make when I moved to Durham? And it wasn't one that I was intentional about, but since we've got this rarity tool, let's check it out. So we look at the map for Durham, and we center the area that I lived when I first moved here. And may not have been a good decision, because we moved from purple in Queens to a fuchsia pinkish color in Durham. And remember, the lighter the color, the more social inequities exist. But luckily, I'm still hovering around 79%, 79 years as my life expectancy. So maybe that's okay. But again, what's startling is my colleagues looked at a community now just 2 miles away, and now I'm able to gain 5 years to my life. So moving to Durham is great, but moving to that community that was 2 miles from where I actually purchased my home may have led to more life in terms of my life expectancy. So again, just really reinforcing where you live matters to your health. Now, I could have been a marathon runner, I could have eaten only fruits and vegetables, but where you live also matters. So I think that was really important for me to see. And I'm grateful that we have these types of tools to identify the really critical role of structural determinants of health. So we launched TRUE, and I mentioned the Transformative Research Unit for Equity. That was launched just this past December. And it reflects RTI's commitment to really centering equity across all of our research, sort of domestically and globally. But it also is the opportunity that we have at RTI to explore the role that structural racism plays, as well as structural determinants of health, the roles that those forces play out in the work that we do in terms of health outcomes. So we've got 60 plus years of amazing research impacting the human condition. And the launch of TRUE is an opportunity for us to really center equity and see what else can we do? What added value can we offer? So as I think about my journey to becoming a researcher that centers equity, I feel like I'm just starting. Because as we begin to understand all of the intersections and all of the factors that play out for how one achieves health equity, we've got a lot of work to do. So I thank you for your time, and I want to invite you on the journey with me to really figuring out what can we do to ensure population health equity. So I thank you for your time.
We hope you enjoyed this Go Red Talk. Thank you again to our Triangle Cities Go Red sponsors, Allscripts and Broadstep Behavioral Health. The Go Red Talk series is presented by Broadstep Behavioral Health. The sponsor of this Go Red Talk on health equity is RTI Health Advance. For more information about Go Red for Women and heart health, please visit www.goredforwomen.org. Thank you for tuning in, and Go Red.